Hi everyone, it's Yogi here.
And I'm Yogini.
Now this is the last part in the 4-part series on Yoga Bandhas. In the first part you learn Mula Bandh, in the second part Uddiyana Bandh, and in the third part Jalandhar Bandh. Now we're going to bring them all together, and this is called Maha Bandh, the Great Lock. So it's when we use all 3 locks together for the benefit of healing the body or taking our practice to the next level. But this is really going to move the whole system of the body. So it's an incredible, very important practice. And it takes time to master, so don't be in a hurry. Now, if you haven't done the sequential practice of doing the first practice, the second practice, and the third, you should do those first. You're welcome to listen to the explanation here of Maha Bandh, but it won't make sense doing it unless you've done all the other 3 practices first.
So let's review the science that we've learned behind the practice. As we know, the practices of yoga are meant to keep the body and mind operating at its highest potential. And this is achieved by working with the central nervous system, which controls all functions of the body and mind. With bandhas, yogic locks, we are able to stimulate specific nerve plexuses along the spinal column and restore its power and function. This restores the power and function to whichever operating system, organ, gland, and hormone that it controls. In this series, we are learning the 4 yoga bandhas. So now we have learned the first 3, each one stimulating 2 nerve plexuses along the spinal column. In part 1, we learned Muladhara Bandh, which stimulates the coccygeal and sacral nerve plexuses, also known as Muladhara and Swadhisthana chakra. In part 2, we learned Uddiyana Bandh, which stimulates the solar and thoracic plexuses known as Manipur and Anahat chakra. In part 3, we learned Jalandhar Bandh, which stimulates the cervical and cavernous plexus of nerves, also the hypothalamic pituitary axis within the brain. This is also known as Vishuddhi and Anya chakra. Now, we will combine all 3 of the bandhas and practice Maha Bandh, the Great Lock. Maha Bandh stimulates all of the nerve plexuses along the spinal column. So it brings power and function to the entire nervous system. That means all of the operating systems of the body, all of its organs, all of the glands, all of the hormones. That's the great power of Maha Bandh and why it is called the Great Lock.
And you're going to get many more benefits as well. I mean, in totality, you're going to become, at some point, as you practice more, you're going to get the doshas in line together. These are the elements of the body. So you're going to balance Kapha, the earth element, Pitta, the fire element, and Vata, the air element. This is where we can become tridoshic. We can truly self-heal from inside because we've balanced all the doshas together. This is something that we can do with Maha Bandh. That's why it takes so much practice to do, because the results of it is quite phenomenal. And it's something that we're going to add to our practice along the way. So it's not, we don't do it straight away. But you're going to get all the benefits of rooting yourself in Mula Bandh, controlling Agni, the fire, acidity of the body. And then as you move up to the more subtle energy in the throat, you're going to be able to control Vata and the air element. So any nervousness you have, dryness in the body, all of those things are going to be balanced.
So let's talk about the emotional connection of the practice. As we know, the nerve plexuses along the spinal column are directly connected to emotional centers within the mind. So when we stimulate a nerve plexus, we're simultaneously stimulating its corresponding emotional center. The yogic sciences speak of 3 psychic knots within the mind. They are known as Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra Granti. Granti means knots. They are patterns of mental behavior that limit us. They prevent the free flow of energy within the mind. Now we know if there is not a free flow of energy in the mind, then simultaneously there will not be a free flow of energy within the nerve plexuses. So it will block the chakras. This impedes the awakening of spiritual energy and the rising of Kundalini. You see, the first 2 centers are connected to the primal brain, which is our animal nature. The second 2 centers are connected to our limbic brain, which is our emotional nature. The higher 2 centers are connected to our frontal lobes, which is our higher consciousness. So the Kundalini experience is felt within the nerve plexuses along the spinal column, but the actual awakening is happening within the mind when we are able to raise our consciousness from the lower brain to the midbrain to the frontal brain. This is the power of Maha Bandha. It simultaneously brings power and energy to all of these centers within the brain, awakening their higher faculties, enabling us to transcend our lower nature. It has the potential to release these knots that limit us and awaken and raise our Kundalini.
Okay, so let's start to practice. And for this, you sit up tall, your shoulders are back, and your head and neck are straight. And just take a few breaths, getting connection with your body, your mind, get focused. Good. So I'm going to demonstrate first, and then we're going to practice together. Now, the movements that you've got to remember as you go through it are you're going to inhale, exhale, then you're going to inhale. As you put your head down, you're holding the breath now. So that's one thing you got to remember. As you're going down your head and you're moving, you're exhaling all the air out here. Okay? So you're here, inhale, you hold the breath, and then you exhale, you're going down. This naturally locks the throat. This is the first lock. You go down, you exhale all the air out of your stomach by pushing the stomach in and up. This is the second lock. And then as you come up, you do the third lock at the base, the Muladhara, right? So that's the movement. And then when you're here, you're locked in. You're locked in at the throat, you're locked in here, at the navel, and you're locked in at the base, at the perineal muscle. Okay? And that's the 3 locks altogether. And Jayma's going to speak while I'm doing it and take us through it. But those are the things you got to remember. And if you've done series 1, 2, and 3, this is naturally going to start to be a flow of how you keep the body together in these 3 locks. And remembering where the perineal muscle is between the anus and the testes in men and the cervix for women. And here the second lock is in and up. And the third lock is your chin lock, the thyroid gland. Okay? So we'll move through this and we'll do the first one together as Jayma's going to describe it.
So, take a deep inhalation, exhale completely, the body bends forward, the throat naturally locks. Now you inhale the navel inward, performing Uddiyana Bandha, squeeze the perineum, performing a perineum lock. Let the awareness rotate from Muladhara, Manipur, Vishuddhi, Muladhara, Manipur, Vishuddhi. When you need the breath, you never strain. You release the lock, beginning with the perineum, then the navel. As you raise, you release the throat lock and take the inhalation.
You shouldn't feel any strain. If you held the breath too long, you're going to feel that strain. All right? And if you have held it too long, remember here, don't suddenly release because it will make you cough. Just take a slight inhale and then release. Okay? That helps to give a little bit of a gap before you release the breath, so you don't release it too strongly. We're always in control of all these movements because that is what we do in yogic practice. It's a controlled movement in and out in all of your practices, so at no point do you sort of harm and damage yourself. You want to take us through one more? And then
shall we start the practice?
Okay.
We can start.
Sure, we can start.
Because we've done all the bandhas.
Okay, so sitting up tall, inhaling, exhaling. So you inhale. Now you exhale forcefully. You bring the chin down. This is the first lock. And now Uddiyana Bandha, bringing stomach in and up. And the third lock is Mula. And here, with no strain, you're in all three locks. And bring your attention to Mula, and then to Uddiyana, and then to the throat. If you need to release, remember you release Muladhara first, Uddiyana second, and you bring your head up to inhale. If you're still in the locks, bring your attention to Muladhara, Uddiyana, and Vishuddhi. Now to release, you release first the base, the navel, you bring your head up, and you inhale. So at times I'm going to hold it longer. You just have to remember, as you need to come out of it, no strain, you release the lock at the base first, Mul, you release Uddiyana, and then you release by bringing your head up, and then you inhale. So and if you don't get panicky in any of it, always release your breath first before you get panicky. So again, here we go. Inhale, exhale. Inhale deeply. Exhale forcefully, bring your head down. First lock, bring the stomach in and up. The second lock, squeeze the perineum. That's the third lock. And hold. Shoulders should be slightly forward. Head is slightly forward, bending over. Remembering when you need to come out of it, you release Muladhara. You release the navel, and then you bring your head up and you inhale. If you're continuing in the practice, focus on Muladhara, the navel, and the throat area. Keep going between those three. Starting at the base and coming up. Now to release out of the bandha, you release the lowest bandha first, the second, and Jalanda Bandha. Bring your head up and inhale. Release the shoulders. Now close your eyes and observe the effects of the practice. We're not sort of observing so much how we're feeling, but what has the practice done? Has it made our mind more focused? Has it given us more lightness? Good, and you can open up the eyes. So as you do this practice more and more, and you practice daily, along the way you'll see that your breath will expand and expand and expand, and you'll be able to stay in that posture much longer. And that's when you'll get lighter and lighter and lighter, and then you'll be able to sit in meditation longer as well.
Have patience with yourself in the practice. It takes time. It may seem awkward and a lot at first, and you won't be able to retain the breath for long, but in time it becomes such a smooth and natural movement, and you can actually feel with your heartbeat the pumping of energy and prana right up the spinal column to the brain, like one fluid circuit of energy. You can perform bandha after your daily practice of asana and pranayama, so postures and breath work, and then before your practice of concentration and meditation. We hope that you have enjoyed this series, and may your practice be blessed. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om.